Hello everybody, welcome. Today we will do a review of Chapter 1, The Importance of Business Ethics. In regards to the basics of business ethics, know the definition of morality. So morals refers to the personal philosophies that define right and wrong. Business ethics is representing organizational principles, values, and norms that may originate from individuals, organizational statements, or from the legal system that primarily guide people and group behavior in any business setting or organizational setting. Principles are those specific boundaries for behavior that often become the basis for rules. For example, human rights and freedom of speech and so on. So oftentimes we stand up for certain principles, even if our life is threatened, even if we are threatened with going to prison or to jail. So you've seen people like Dr. Martin Luther King, for example, who did go to jail and who was often threatened, and eventually he was shot and killed because of his principles of nonviolence. The same is true of Mahatma Gandhi in India as well, and many other heroes that we've seen around the globe. Values are enduring beliefs and ideals that are socially enforced. So here, obviously, you can look at the values of trust and integrity. Those are very important for any individual in any business. In business settings or any organizational settings, you're likely to face various dilemmas that present a conflict between right and wrong. So we call those moral dilemmas, where two or more morals are in conflict with one another. And value dilemmas are very similar, where two or more beliefs or ideals are in conflict with one another. Ethical culture basically means that organizational principles, values, and norms that are adhered to by the company and its personnel when they're dealing with clients, customers, vendors, and society in general. Corporate social responsibility represents actions associated by firms with various stakeholder groups, as well as their interests as a priority. And sustainability relates specifically to the environment, being concerned about the air, the pollution, about our land, around our cities, around our organizations, and the water quality that we all drink and the future generation depends on. And also remember that the water quality impacts plant life, animal life, and so on. So sustainability and corporate social responsibility and having ethical culture all protect these environmental concerns for us in the present and for the future generations as well. When it comes to the bottom line for business ethics, usually managers and employees are concerned about their survival and profitability, increasing revenues, increasing their sales. So the concern is basically how far do we go to push the boundaries of right versus wrong when it comes to using the resources in our environments to increase our profitability. And what processes and procedures do we use to increase profitability, revenues, and sales? So obviously, as professionals, as managers, as workers, we want our organizations to be within the ethical and legal realms of any activity or action, so we don't destroy our environment just to make a profit for today or for our stockholders. Stakeholders are any groups of customers, employees, channel members like manufacturers, wholesalers, retailers, and stakeholders also is inclusive of stockholders, unions, society, government in general. So the key is which of these stakeholders are the most relevant for the time being, and we need to integrate their voice into our decisions that impact them. Another bottom line for business ethics is how do we contribute to the society's goals overall? Are we involved in a community, in the country, in the world in a responsible manner? Why do we study business ethics? To identify ethical issues that are of a concern to all stakeholders, to recognize various approaches for resolving ethical dilemmas and concerns, to cope with conflicts between your own personal values and those of the organization in which you work, and to gain knowledge to make more ethical business decisions in any given day. Research shows that there are many misconducts in the workforce that has been documented. For example, we see that there has been abusive behaviors in the workplace. People have witnessed or heard of others lying to stakeholders. There's obviously always going to be some sort of conflict of interest between various groups of individuals, various teams, between workers and managers, between managers and unions, and obviously between the goal of the organization to increase its profit and the goal of the government to make sure they do it in a socially responsible and sustainable manner. Also, there has been reports of many misconducts by individuals, and obviously sometimes those individuals who observe misconduct or who are victims of misconduct, they are retaliated against when they do report it to higher management. So we have to be very careful when something is reported. We have to investigate it and cautiously make a decision that is the most ethical and the right thing to do, and those that are aligned with the corporation's values. The process for legal to unethical, illegal business conduct practices were discussed. So there were several steps that were presented in this chapter. First of all, a major event occurs which negatively sensitizes the public to a business practice. Second, the public's use of social media to increase awareness. And third, legislators become sensitized to the negative business practices. And then eventually we have bills, laws, and local and state or federal agencies who are concerned about this issue and eventually make the specific issues illegal, or they regulate it to a great extent to make sure no individuals, no human beings are harmed as part of the process. When you look at the timelines of ethical and socially responsible concerns over the past 3-4 decades, you notice that there are a lot of issues that we've been concerned about. So over the last 2 decades, for example, you know that we are concerned more about cybercrime because many of our young children and working adults are constantly online to do their homework, to gather research, to answer emails, to communicate with their colleagues and coworkers or friends. So cybercrime has been an issue. We've been talking quite a bit about financial misconduct, global issues like product safety and even bribery. Most recently, obviously, you saw the Paris Agreement during 2015 about climate concerns and controlling some of the pollution that we're all experiencing around the world. So the concept of sustainability is certainly in the back of everybody's minds. And then we've talked about the intellectual property rights in thefts that has been taking place around the globe. So these are all concerns, areas of research in business ethics for all of us to be aware of and to make sure we obviously do not violate any norms, any laws, and to go above and beyond what is happening in today's environment to make sure we're fair to everybody. What are the benefits of business ethics? There are many. There are many benefits to the business ethics issues and awareness. So ethics contributes to the employee commitment and the willingness to sacrifice for the organization. Ethics increases group creativity and job satisfaction. It decreases turnover. There's usually less pressure to compromise ethical standards. Also, there's greater absence of misconduct and a strong community involvement. Tends to increase loyalty and positive self-identity. And ethics furthermore contributes to investor loyalty. It provides a foundation for efficiency, for productivity, and for profits. And negative publicity, lawsuits, and fines can lower stock prices for an organization. It can diminish customer loyalty, and it can also threaten a company's long-term viability. In other words, companies that are involved with unethical business practices may eventually go bankrupt, if not immediately. There's also demand for socially responsible investing, which has been increasing over the past 2 to 3 decades. And also the younger generation are less likely to put up with unethical and irresponsible business practices. So companies that want good employees, they have to present themselves as such, and they have to create a culture that is concerned about the environment and makes socially responsible decisions, because the new generation of workers obviously demand it. Ethics contributes to customer satisfaction. So high levels of perceived corporate misconduct decreases customer trust. Companies are viewed as socially responsible, will increase their customer trust and satisfaction. Consumer respondents have stated that they would pay more for a product from companies that give back to society in a socially responsible and sustainable manner. So these are good reasons to obviously be the type of manager who emphasizes business ethics and social responsibility. Ethics contributes to the bottom line profits of organizations. So companies that are ethical seems to have better business performance. Part of the strategic planning toward obtaining the outcomes of higher profitability is a focus on business ethics. And business ethics is becoming more than just a function of compliance. It is becoming an integral part of the management's effort to achieve a competitive advantage in the industry. Overall, as a summary, let me just go ahead and give you some questions. What are the differences between morals, principles, and values? Well, morals are personal philosophies that define right and wrong. Principles are specific boundaries for behavior that often become the basis for rules. So again, the concept of human rights that we talk about around the globe, we don't want to be in violation of that. Every person has freedom of speech or expressing him or herself through his or her words. Hopefully those words do not harm anybody else. And values are enduring beliefs and ideals that are socially enforced, like trust and integrity. The good news is that oftentimes as individuals you can change the values that you dislike. If you don't agree with it, obviously you can acquire new values. However, values are enduring, so they have to be changed consciously whenever we don't believe in them anymore. What is the difference between a moral versus value dilemma? Moral dilemmas are between two or more morals being in conflict with one another. However, value dilemmas are when two or more beliefs or ideals are in conflict with one another. For example, do you tell the truth about your friend stealing something, or do you stay loyal to your friend and not say anything? So the value of loyalty versus the value of telling the truth. In some cultures, loyalty is obviously ranked very high. In other cultures, truth is ranked very high compared to loyalty. Is business ethics the same as corporate social responsibility or sustainability? Well, they are not necessarily the same. There are specific differences between them. There are different subjects, different concepts. Therefore, education, training, and writing of articles have to obviously focus on each area as a profession. is sort of like saying that medicine is the same for the eyes, for the teeth, and for the feet. They are different areas of medicine. So doctors specialize in, let's say, the brain, in optometry, in dentistry, and being a podiatrist dealing with foot problems. So the same is true in the area of business ethics, corporate social responsibility, and sustainability. So business ethics represents organizational principles, values, and norms that may originate from individuals, from organizational statements, or from the legal system that primarily guide individual and group behavior in business. However, corporate social responsibility represents actions that are associated by firms with various stakeholder interests as a priority. And sustainability relates specifically to the environment, dealing with the air, land, and water. What is the bottom line for business? Well, firm survival, profitability, generating revenues, and being sustainable in selling to consumers. Stakeholder groups, for example, is another bottom line. Your customers, your employees, your manufacturers, your wholesalers, your retailers, are they also surviving as a result of your business? Are they also focusing on quality? So those are the bottom lines for any business, because you cannot run a successful business by yourself. You have to cooperate with others in the value chain to help you survive and obviously outcompete your rivals every single day. And fourth, the bottom line for business is to contribute to the goals of the community, the country, the nation, the world, and obviously to your own family and your own employees' goals. What are the pros and cons for business ethics? The pros are that ethics contributes to employee commitment, ethics contributes to customer satisfaction, it contributes to the profits of the organization. Ethics provides a foundation for efficiency, for productivity, and for bottom line profits. In negative publicity results in lawsuits, fines, lower stock prices, diminish customer loyalty, and the demand for social responsibility is increasing in today's environment. So these are some of the pros of business ethics. And the cons are that it eats into revenues, sales, and profitability. The more you provide training, the more likely you're going to have to obviously spend some money to create awareness, to print literature, and to send your employees to workshops, conferences, or courses related to business ethics. Another con is that it does not maximize shareholder benefit. In other words, in the short term, the shareholders are concerned that if you're spending, let's say, $1 million training 1,000 employees, that $1 million could be going to stockholders. Well, that is short-term thinking, but obviously in the short term there is a cost in order for employees to not misbehave and not be involved in any misconducts. And finally, business ethics training and awareness at times may decrease competitive edge. Obviously, this is seen as a con, but it's not necessarily for the long term. So this is not a disadvantage at all, but nonetheless, sometimes people view it as such because you have to spend some money in order to educate your people in the short term so they can make decisions that positively impact the organization in the long term. Are there any differences between decisions that are made at home and at work? In other words, personal decision versus professional decisions in our personal lives versus our professional lives. Well, in home, you have family, you have children, neighbors, community, and the environment that's impacted by your decisions. In the workplace is the profit motive, the competitors, the investors, the employees, and community and the environment. So your children are just as important, obviously, as the community because your children live in the community. If we harm the community, our children does not have a bright future. So the two go together. Our decisions have to be positive. Ultimately, our personal lives obviously take a priority. And if we have a good personal life, then we're likely to have a good professional life as well. Use as many resources as you can to enhance your awareness of business ethics, and obviously continue reviewing your textbook, because ethical behavior is our goal, and understanding the issues related to business ethics is obviously an academic concern for all of us to write about, and hopefully to influence everybody's behavior to go in the right direction. Good luck. Remember that ethical behavior is a skill, so you need to police, evaluate, and improve your ethical muscles every single day. You need to manage and guide yourself effectively. It is then and only then that you can manage and guide the behaviors of others in the society. Good luck.